Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the next card in the tarot and the awakening process. And the universe is so about timing. We're on card 13. It's the death card. And my dad passed this week, the day before yesterday. So I'm living it. This is, of course, can be a physical passing. This is a very real transit. Of course, the death card can mean death without dying. It can be transformation. It can be deep transformation, but of course, physical death is a transformation as well. But a lot of people do get scared when they see this card, this archetype. Oh no, thinking that a real physical death is imminent. But most of the time, usually, it is indicating a transformation. And of course, I definitely saw the transformation taking place in my father before his passing from this realm. Sending me lots of love, Dad. This other tarot I have of the death card is my herbal tarot, and this death card is the elderflower, which I find fascinating because elder is long been a tree, a plant, a medicine, granting knowledge and wisdom. Not only is it good for your immune system, but it signifies wisdom. So with the death card, with this archetype comes wisdom. Sometimes the wisdom is hard to get. I knew this one was going to be hard. But the death process does something. How does it transform us? It does something to us. Like whatever the death process is, if it's a physical death of someone you love or know, or if it's the death of an old life that you lived, a relationship, a job, a way of doing things, if you had to leave a house or move, or whatever way in which that death process shows up for you, there's a process that has to go on physiologically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like biologically, in order to cope with, in order to deepen, in order to gain wisdom and not also be swallowed up by this archetype, because you've seen in cases where death can cause death, deep heartbreak can cause another soul to depart. Or you can just simply become bitter, or you can block life, or you cannot get the wisdom, you cannot transform. Like you can allow the death to take you down and not recover. And that's not the full opportunity, that's not the full wisdom that's being offered with this archetype. This archetype begs of you to hold your hand out and take its hand and walk side by side and learn the wisdom of this passage. For me, that's opening to know that actually my father can be with me more fully than he's ever been with me, because in the living, in the physical, there are always walls, whether we want them to be there or not, that exist between thoughts that we don't want to share, or things we may be embarrassed to share, or pastimes or whatever. And in death, none of that exists. When a loved one dies, suddenly there's no barriers, there's no distance, there's no time. And even if I've been living around and with him, still there were walls of what we couldn't talk about, or what we couldn't say, or what I couldn't share of my life or my past, and I had to moderate it based on our relationship and so forth, that in the transformation that death archetype offers, those walls break down, those veils are rent. Even this is a veiled being, right? The veils of death, like in a breakup or in a, mostly the death card, that archetype is showing up in something that's feels very intense. It can feel tragic. It can feel like great loss. But when we seek that loss for the treasures, when we look what's being offered us, we will generally find a deepening of our nature and a dissolving of the walls between us and other people, between us and those around us remaining, between us and those who've passed. There's a dissolving, there's an allowance, an opening. Of course, the shaman is the one who can stand between those realms all the time, who's become familiar not only with the death process, but also befriended it. And as difficult as this process is for me, I did see it coming, as you know, for some time. And so I had some time to prepare and also to talk to my father about this time and this crossage and the adventure that he's on, and the opportunity for us all to grow deeper and to transform. It's interesting, this whole Pluto transit that's going on, and I'll just mention it a little bit because it's pertinent to this archetype that we're talking about, because Pluto is the archetype of Hades, of the underworld, of death and transformation. And Pluto stays in the sign, as you know, like around 20 years or so. And so to go around a full zodiac is longer than any of us will be here, unless you're, very long liver. But so we've made this, nearly 20-year transit through Capricorn, 16, 17 years maybe. And that's really shown us a structure with Capricorn that I talked about this in another video, that my father really greatly represents, because he's Capricorn. And I had a sense that this transit, he was going to go ahead and ride on this. So Pluto goes back into Capricorn for a moment, from September 1 into November. We just get like a last glimpse. And then it's off to Aquarius, right? So Pluto brings death, brings transformation to the sign that it's in, to that system, to that part of your chart. For me, Capricorn is in the 8th house of death and of inheritances. And so that's my experience of, Pluto's been transiting my 8th house, so it completes that transit this year. And of course we have 13, as I spoke about in the last tarot video, that 13 was the goddess number, or the mystical number. As we go from the Hanged Man at 12, with the 12 ventricles of the brain, and in the surrender, in the humble space, those ventricles lay down, the pineal gland lights up. And this is so pertinent. My dad was such a go-getter, such a Capricorn, such a business guy, organized, like really held like the structure together beautifully, very Capricornian. And in his final time, it was very much a struggle for him to surrender to being cared for and to be humble. I mean, he was always a humble guy, but to surrender to, allowing himself to receive care. That was really challenging for him. And that's part of this gate of death, is that, surrender, that humility, that receptive energy of the goddess, the feminine, the divine feminine archetype, which is the void, which is the kundalini. Here's the serpent, the life force. in order to make that transition. So wherever you are in your reality, look at it right now and think, where is the death process happening for me? What is breaking down? What has closed? What is closing? How can I honor that? How can I walk with that? You know, even when you go through a death without dying, you know, just like you do in a physical death, and you write a eulogy, you write an obituary. I'm working on that now. But this is something I encourage clients to do in an important passage of their life. If an old version of themselves is dying, let's say, write down, you know, as if you're going to your own funeral, all the things about the past you that are so, you know, to be honored and beautiful, and part of the hard things, the things that made you you, what someone might read should you pass. But then you read it and you recognize that part of you is past, and you can honor it, and you can let it go, and you can birth anew. You can renew, you can reanimate, you know, redefine yourself. The death process, the death card, this archetype is a redefinition period. We are getting to redefine ourselves even at this very moment in time with this Pluto transit. Like, stuff has to die, old structure has to die, old ways have to die, the way you did things before has to die. We're not going backwards, we're going forward. And what wisdom can you reap from what has been? And how can you do that lightheartedly, like the white veil? And as you notice in this death card, there is volcanoes, and the sky is red, and it's very like apocalyptic sort of. But in this one, you know, the sun is rising, and there's roses being brought, and there's nourishment, right? So there's two faces, or, you know, more than one face of this death energy, and how we can honor it, embody it, really take it in right now. Again, it can be difficult. Like, it's a period of mourning, even when, you know, it's not a physical death, even when it's just like you know, don't have a job, the same job, you don't have the same partner, you don't have the same house, like whatever the big changes for you. You might go, oh, well, I didn't lose a loved one, you know, like you, Stasia, you know, that's difficult, but what you're going through is difficult too. I know it is. Transforming the self, reigniting new sense of self, that's challenging. And I honor you in that, and I ask you to honor yourself in that, because then this archetype can embody, and you can move through the next phase of the hero's journey and go through the transformation process with grace, and begin to really live your destiny from this moment forward. Remember, we still have the star card and the sun card, and, you know, we still have some beautiful adventures before we get to the completion energy of the world card. So the death card, we're at 13 of 22 archetypes, right? So we're getting closer. The death process comes and it recalibrates and transforms us. And I sense, for me now, this death process in our family, my family, is making way for some new ways of expressing, defining myself, communication in the family and so forth. It's already changed drastically just in the day that we've been without my father. And of course, we're never without him. He's big vibes. I gained one powerful angel, I'll tell you. So I don't know what else to say about this archetype. I know it's a challenge. It can feel like this, but it can also feel like this, which feels more graceful. Again, take the time to honor it. Take the time to mourn, take the time to cry, to receive. And the resurrection will come, the renewal will come, the rebirthing, right? We have Temperance card coming up too. That's a healing process. Okay, thank you so much for all your love and support. It's so appreciated. I appreciate you. I wish you a beautiful day. It is the 888 as I'm recording this today, so that's the Lion Gate vibes. It's not really the same this year as every year, as we're in a leap year and the astrology is a little different and everything, but still that powerful 888 is there for you. Think into that abundance frequency. Think into the new rebirthing again with the great central sun vibe. Like what part of me wants to come online? What parts of me are going offline? Sending you all the love, all the blessings. I receive from you too the same. I know you're such caring, wonderful people. I appreciate you for being here. I love you so much. Namaste.